So then tonight we'll be in Revelation chapter 21. I want to read 9 and 10 just to get us started on this New Jerusalem, and then we'll see how far it is we get tonight. So here we go. Verse 9, it says, "And there came unto me one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials full of the seven last plagues, and talked with me, saying, Come hither, I will show thee the bride, the Lamb's wife. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God." Whew. Wow, what a sight.
All right, Robert, you got your Bible on you back there. All right, man. Do verse 9.
"And there came unto me one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials full of the seven last plagues, and talked with me, saying, Come hither, I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife."
All right, so let me read this here, and then we'll talk about 9 a little bit. All right, so verse 9 begins the description of the New Jerusalem, a place Christ has prepared for his new bride to live. The city is for the bride and no one else. Okay, we'll talk about that. All right, so from here on out, we're going to John. Remember, now we got John here, and he's still the guy, and we'll get to that a little bit more in verse 10. But where he's going to describe the bride of Christ and the home that Christ has prepared for his bride. Now, John is going to do the best he can do. I mean, you know, and I've looked at this thing. I went over it, and I don't know. We're going to do the best we can, but I don't think we're even going to touch 1% of it. I mean, when you see this city, I don't know how far we'll get in the city, but when you see this city, I mean, you're going to be speechless. There's nothing like it. No city's ever been like it. Christ himself built the city. Now you think about that. Christ himself built this city. He said he'd go to prepare a place for you. Wasn't so, he wouldn't have told you so, you know. In my Father's house are many mansions, you know. All these things are going to come to place here in chapter 21, because Christ has went and built a city, and he built it for me and you. And so we're going to try to describe this city, and you're going to see that John himself is going to be overwhelmed when he sees it. And again, we're going to do our best to describe it, but there's nothing like it ever before in this world. And of course, it'll be our home forever. I mean, it'll be where we live at forever. So we're going to start there in 10. So, all right, Debbie, start in 10.
"So he took me in the spirit to a great high mountain, and he showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God."
All right, the holy city, Jerusalem. And we'll go that again. So he took me in the spirit to a great high mountain, and he showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God. Okay, where is the New Jerusalem coming from?
Heaven.
And coming to where? Here on this earth. Okay, so we got. There's going to be a lot of commentaries about that, but it's very good. John is carried away to a high mountain to view the city that Christ himself has built. There is no city like it, and the following verses will describe it. Christ wants you to know what a beautiful place he has made for you. So this is in the Bible, and you think, well, why is this in the Bible? Because Christ wants you to know. He wants you to know what awaits you if you're just true and faithful, if you just stay the course, if you stay on the track and don't get off the track. He wants you to know he wants you to live for him, and he's going to bless you while you live on this earth for him. What a blessing it is to live for Christ. I mean, hasn't he blessed us just tremendously? Amen. What a blessing it is to live for Christ. But he wants to show you that all the blessings you've had here on this earth doesn't compare to the blessings he has for you in heaven. You know, remember, we've been on this earth. We went out in the rapture. There was 7 years of tribulation. There was 1,000-year millennial reign. And now there's heaven. And he's going to let John describe it. Remember, this is Christ's revelation, but John, a human just like us, is doing his best to describe it. And Christ wants you to know, this is what I went to prepare for you. This is what I have waiting for you when you get there. And John may be doing a better job of describing it than we are, but we're going to try to describe it as best we can. But I really believe if somebody would have to have some great command of the English language that I don't have, we're just not adequate enough. I mean, to describe this city, it takes somebody who knows more about adjectives and stuff like that than I do. But we're going to give it a shot. All right, we'll talk about it. Where are we at? Verse 11. Who? Jimmy.
Having the glory of God, and her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal.
Okay, well, I'll read what I got here, and then we'll go back to that. John, for the first time, sees the full glory of God. Think about that. And he tried to describe the light, because this is where light originates from. Christ is the light of the world. No human being has seen this sight, and it almost overwhelms John. Now, he sees God in his full glory. Never been seen before, see? You know, we have the description in Isaiah. We have several descriptions. So we'll go this. It's shone with the glory of God and sparkled like a precious stone, like a jasper, as clear as crystal. So John's trying to describe the glory of God that he sees. Wow. Could you describe the glory of God? See? What description would you put? See? And you could just go on and on and on forever. So, and again, we see that it almost overwhelms John. Would it almost overwhelm us?
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know whether people pass out or faint or something like that when they get to heaven. But I don't know when we see this city. I don't know whether you'll be able to stand. You might fall. I don't know what you might do. See, but we're going to see this great city, and it's going to be our great city. It belongs to us. God has given it to us. Christ has made it for us. It's just a remarkable. All right, Mary, 12 and 13.
And had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. On the east 3 gates, on the north 3 gates, on the south 3 gates, and on the west 3 gates.
So we start describing the city, and first we start with the outside of the city. So we start describing the city. And I've gotten down here trying to figure this out the best I can. The gates will be about 375 miles apart from each other. There are about 12 gates to the city, 3 on the north, 3 on the south, 3 on the east, 3 on the west. And each gate has one of the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. And each gate is guarded by an angel. And each gate is about, I got down here, 216 feet high. Now, we're going to get back to that 216 feet later on, because we're going to talk about the gates. But you can see that these gates, they're 3 on each side, and they're miles apart. Like 300, I got down here 375 miles apart. So you have a gate here, and a gate here, and a gate here. Then you go to the other side, and you have a gate here, and a gate here, and a gate here. Then you go on the other side, and you have these 3 gates. And these gates are about 216 feet high. Man, size of a football field high. Wow. So it's huge. But we'll talk more about the gates. I didn't want to get on the gates. And on each of the gate is one of the 12 names of one of the 12 apostles of the. No, that's wrong. What am I going too far?
12 tribes.
One of the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. So we know what the 12 tribes of Israel were. I know there's something about that. But one of the 12 tribes of Israel is on one name of one of the 12 tribes is on each gate. All right, verse 14. Who is that? Cassie.
Can we stop?
Oh yeah, sure.
So just trying to picture that in your mind. If you were to picture that, Jimmy, we'll go with you. Would you have, we'll use Reuben as one of the names of the
Reuben.
Would you have Reuben written above the gate? Would you have it written right in the middle of the gate, so when it opens up, it's like RU on one side and BN on the other? Where would you put the name
I put it
at?
above the gate.
You put it above the gate?
It means that God puts where he wants to.
Right. I mean, just the littlest finite details when you start really trying to understand what this looks like.
Exactly.
Where this names are, where the gates are. Would you have them, like if this was the city, would you have one on a corner and one on another corner? Would you divide the, as you 375 miles apart? Right when you start.
Why? Now I'll ask this question, and I know why wouldn't you have the name in the middle of the gate?
Why would you do it? Why would you do it?
Why wouldn't you have the name? Anybody?
Because when the gates open,
The gates never close.
that's right.
That's right, that makes sense.
That's right. The gates are never closed. See, so if you had the name on the gate, then no one would ever. So above the gate, on the side of the gate,
Right on the side, right?
yeah, on the side of the gate. Huh?
There's-
Yeah, but what you would very good. Yeah.
Is the name written in black? Is it written in the color of a stone? Is it a golden plate etched like you got a gold plate on your front door? Is it on a gold plate with the edged? I mean, there's all kinds of thoughts.
Get back with you on that.
Right? You let me know when you get that figured out. But just the name, I mean, just different little thoughts.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyhow.
Praise God, it's amazing.
It is when you start thinking. Go ahead.
Well, I guess I could ask you, what color is the gate? Anyway, we'll get to that.
It's a lot of thought we put on it.
I mean, well,
But so
off white. what a pinkish hue,
Yeah,
white with
yeah.
a pinkish hue. Anybody got any pearls back there? I don't know. Anyways, all right, moving on.
I don't know.
Something's going on back there.
I don't know. Maybe she went to get one.
We thought you went to go get a pearl.
Oh, we thought. Yeah.
Anyways,
All right. Verse 14.
yeah.
So we're having a little fun with this, which we're going to have a lot more fun when we get to heaven with this.
Oh, no doubt.
All right. Verse 14.
The wall of the city had 12 foundation stones, and on them were written the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb.
All right. So we'll go back to Robert run over to Revelations 4 again. The city has 12 foundations, and each foundation has one of the apostles' name on it. The bride of Christ is made up of all believers. I got down here on both sides of the cross. So if we went back, remember when we went to Revelations 4:4? Go to that, Robert.
And round about the throne were 24 seats. And upon the seats I saw 24 elders sitting, clothed in white raiment, and they had on their heads crowns of gold.
So when we talked about those 24 around the throne, what did we say the 24, 12 was what? And 12 was what? 12 represented the 12 tribes of Israel,
Right.
and 12 was the 12 apostles. So here you have it again. Again, the gates have the 12 tribes of Israel, and the foundation stones, now we read that again, and the walls of the city had 12 foundation stones, and on them are written the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. So there you can see that the Old Testament believers as well as the New Testament believers are both there. And people want to know about that. They say, well, but they went through a lot. But the people that were true, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all them guys, yeah, they're there. Yeah, they're there, guys. They're there. People said, well, they didn't know who Christ was. But they obeyed the law, and they did what the law said,
So
Go ahead.
So I've seen several pictures. If you look up any pictures and see just some of the crazy stuff. So these 12 foundation stones, I just want to, because we're imagining things here. Okay. So some people had them. I'm going to close my Bibles. Some people had like this stone stacked on this stone, and eventually there was 12 of them until you got to the city, right? Some and the city was the size, the whole foundation it took up. So if this was the size of the whole city. Anyways, some of them had, let's say this again is the size of the city. Some of them had a stone on a stone on a stone on a stone, like it was teetering, rocking back and forth, and this big city sitting right on top of it.
Wow.
And then, of course, I have a house built in 1904 that actually does sit on foundation stones. So underneath my house, if you were to call in my house, there's a stone on this corner, there's a stone on that corner, there's a stone in the middle, and the boards lay across these foundation stones, and then the house is built on foundation stones. Anyways, I'm just saying, it's interesting to hear what people think about
Sure.
when you picture 12 foundations or 12 stones found. I mean, what would you picture it looking like? You know what I mean? Would you picture a bunch of rocks teetering on top of each other and then this city kind of swaying on top? Anyway, all kinds of silly stuff out there. But it's fun to see people's imagination and their thought process. I mean, it really is. It's a lot of fun to me.
My wife was my witness back there. I get my wife because, she writes all this. I couldn't write it. I wouldn't know what it said if I wrote it. So she writes it all down for me. I just tell her what to write, and she writes it all down for me. And I will. I'll get on the internet and I'll get some references and stuff. And there's very little help out there, guys. Let me tell you, there's very little help out there. I'll read and read and read and read, and I find no help in that. And I'll get another and read, and there's very little. I really don't understand it. I really don't. People don't want to touch it, or they don't want to talk about it. And then you have the few, I'll just say crazies. I mean, they want to talk about it, and they just go way, way out into outer space, and they stay out there a long time.
They don't want to use any common sense. I mean, again, you go to just throwing this out there. If somebody were to say, "Hey, I went and dug up my old barn that was built in 1850, and it's on 12 foundation stones," and like, oh, well, maybe that could be what it's talking about. But the people that want to stack a rock and make it look something. I mean, come on, guys. Yeah. What building do you know of ever that has any common sense that would even be able to stand? But in any event, well, silly stuff.
And you have people that
it looks neat.
This city is square, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But you have the city being round, you have it being triangle, you have it sort of hovering up there, sort of like it in outer space. And
you have it kind of on a hill. I've seen some people kind of put it as it kind of goes up on it. It's
And so you have and it's just, and I guess that may be good. I don't know, but
fun stuff.
That we don't have to. Now, I mean, we can visualize some of this stuff. But God has given us in great detail. He's taken the time to give us in great detail this city.
Right.
And let's just go with what God says,
Golden gates. I've seen golden gates to the city. I've seen black iron, wrought iron gates to the city. I've seen all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You think, well, the Lord tells you what the gates are made of if you just read it. Anyways.
Yeah. Even Psalms talk about it. You even have guys write Psalms, and you think,
yeah.
Wow. All right. So, Robert, 15. Well, no, we did Robert with 4:4. Debbie, 15 and 16.
Mm-hmm. The angel who talked to me held in his hand a gold measuring stick to measure the city, its gates, and its wall. When he measured it, he found it was a square, as wide as it was long. In fact, its length and width and height were each 1,400 miles.
And did we get to this 15 and 16? So we haven't got the walls yet. Oh,
No,
all right.
17.
All right. I'll try to talk about this a little bit and try to put it in kind of perspective. Okay, a square, approximately 1,400 miles on each side and 1,400 miles high. This area is about 1,960,000 square miles. How big is that? See. Now, so we're talking about miles, because we're talking about 1,400 miles left, 1,400 miles right, 1,400 miles east, 1,400 miles south, 1,400 miles north, 1,400 miles whichever way go left out, and 1,400 miles up. So I'll give you this to you. Space is about 62 miles above the earth. So if you go 62 miles above the earth, you're in outer space. You're in space. That's all. This thing's 1,400 miles up. The U.S. Air Force awards astronaut wings to officers who fly higher than 50 miles above sea level. 50 miles above sea level, you're an astronaut. So you saw these guys getting their astronaut wings here not very long ago. Some celebrities, they went up there and they got their astronaut. They flew between 50 and 60 miles above the earth.
Wow.
That's space. Now you didn't think about that, but that's space. All right.
That's pretty good.
You thought it was a lot higher than that, didn't you? Satellites, we got satellites, must stay at least 200 miles above sea level to maintain long-term orbit. So you see the satellites up in the sky. And they're way up there, and you get through a microscope, you see a little light. They have to maintain orbit. They have to maintain about 200 miles to go around. Now we're talking 1,400 miles. So higher than space, higher than a satellite. I'm trying to give you some idea about how high up 1,400 miles is. Way higher than a satellite. Yeah.
I see you back there. I see it, Robert. I see your mind just getting it.
Yeah. So a satellite's about 200 miles up there. We're talking 1,400 miles. Okay, so I put some down here. Some of this you'll recognize because our pastor went on vacation, so I thought I'd throw this in here. It is approximately 1,400 miles from Spring Hope to San Antonio, Texas.
Wow.
So if you go from here to San Antonio, that's about 1,400 miles. It is about 825 miles. Now that's you go this way. Now let's go north. It's approximately 825 miles from Spring Hope to Montreal, Canada.
Wow.
So you go from here to Montreal, Canada, it's about 825 miles. Now this is 1,400 miles. All right. And as we should know, it's about 775 miles from Spring Hope to the Florida Keys.
Is it really?
775 miles. So it's twice as far that way to the Florida Keys twice as far as the Florida Keys. It's 1,400 miles. And I got here is about 803 miles from Spring Hope if we go out to the ocean to Bermuda. It's about 803 miles. So you imagine now something that is twice as far from here to the Florida Keys that way, twice as far from here to Montreal that way, twice, 200 miles, so it's 7 times higher than a satellite that way. And
all the way to Texas.
all the way to Texas that way, So I got down here 1,960,000 square miles. That's just the city. That's the city of Jerusalem. That's how big this city is. So on the grand scale, when they talk about grand, how big is it? It's pretty big, and it's as high, it's as wide, it's as long. It's pretty big. All right. It's about 10 after now. We get to start talking about, we'll do 17. I don't know whether we're going to do, because we start talking about its beauty. We'll touch on this. We might go back to it. Jimmy reads 17.
And he measured the wall thereof, 144 cubits, according to the measure of a man, that is of the angel.
All right, so it says the wall is 216 feet thick. That is using 18 inches for a cubit. So a cubit was about 18 inches. It tells you 216 feet. So the walls are 216 feet thick. Got that? Okay. Pretty good sized wall. Not quite the length of a football field. All right. Do 18. And we might stop with that.
And the building of the wall of it was of jasper, and the city was pure gold, like unto clear glass.
All right, I don't think we'll go any further than that, but I'm glad. The wall being made of jasper was for its beauty more than for its protection. Now we're going to start talking about beauty. The city is literally made, this is literal now, this city is literally made of pure gold. The city is pure gold. The walls are made of jasper. Now, this wall is 216 feet thick, and it's made of jasper. And we're going to start talking about all these next Wednesday night. We're going to start talking about all of these. And there's a little difference between the King James and this other, but about all these jewels and what they look like. Ooh. And describe what this city looks like with all these jewels. So but I think we got the dimensions. The walls, 1,400 miles long, 1,400 miles high. The gates, 216 feet tall. The thickness of the walls, 216 feet thick. So I wanted to cover that tonight, and then we're going to get to the interior of the city next Wednesday night to see what the interior is like. And it's just, I'm just telling you, it's undescribable. I mean, what we're going to talk a little bit about is the best we can, but literally, it's more than we can describe. But we're going to talk about it, and you'll see that there's all these jewels that make up this city, and then there's all this stuff that makes up the gates and stuff like that. And that goes to, I don't know what it goes to 27. So we're going to try next week to get from 19 to 27. Only 7 verses. We're going to try to get to 7 verses, but it's almost unbelievable, you know. And and John does a very good job. Remember, John is just like us. He's trying to describe as best he can what he sees, you know. And I got to give it to John. When John writes this stuff, and if he does something wrong, he puts in there that he doesn't. You know, we might not. I mean, John writes it all in there. If he makes an error in something he does, he writes it. He did that.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know that I would do that if I was writing this thing. I think I might just omit that part. But he doesn't omit anything. He puts everything in there, you know. John's true to form, telling everything just the way it is, you know. And what a city! If you can get somebody, you know, you look at some guy's imagination of the city. Go ahead if you want to look at it and see what the man thinks about it. But now remember, this city was made by Christ. He made this city, and he made this city for me and you. So when if you read some of that stuff, don't get caught up in all that. Christ made the city, and he made it for me and you. So when he talks about the people in that city, that's us he's talking about. And when he talks about the city, that's the city he made for us. You think about that, it's amazing. All right, guys, I don't know, I will say this, I've been looking at the shares and stuff like that. Now come on, guys, we need your help. Like, share, and subscribe. We're not being vigilant with that. We're not doing the job we should be doing. We got to get this word out. The only way to get this word out is for all of us to share it with somebody. You know, we all know somebody. Try to share it with 5 people, you know, and the pastor can look back and he can see whether this thing was viewed at all by anybody. And we have 5 views and 9 views and 12 views and stuff like that. And we should have 100 views, you know. So if everybody's sharing it, and I know there's just a handful of us here tonight, but please, you know who's not here, send it to them.
Okay.
Send it to the ones that aren't here, you know, and let them have it. Maybe they'll look at it and ask him, did you see that? What did he say about how thick the walls were? What did he say about how high the city was? Ask him a question about it. You'll know whether or not they see it or not. And they say, well, I don't know. What did it say? Go back and watch the tape. Go back and look at it, you know. What did he say about it? And get them to watch it, you know. All right. Thank you very much.